The betrayal that shattered 3 generations. He was 72 years old. She was 27, and the man between them never saw it coming. On a Thursday morning in September, Detective Rachel Morrison received a call that would haunt her for years. A young woman was in custody. Her grandfather-in-law was in the hospital with critical injuries, and her husband, the man who had loved them both, was dead. This is the story of how a family built on trust collapsed in a single night, leaving behind questions that still echo through a small Georgia town. This is the story of Michael Hayes, Caroline Hayes, and the man who destroyed them both, Thomas Hayes. Before we go deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Michael Hayes was the kind of man people remembered. At 31 years old, he managed a hardware store in Marietta, Georgia, just outside Atlanta. He had grown up without his parents. His mother died when he was 6. His father left shortly after. It was his grandfather Thomas who raised him. Thomas Hayes was a man of means. He had built a successful construction business from nothing, owned properties across 3 counties, and lived in a house that overlooked the Chattahoochee River. But more than his wealth, Thomas was known for his devotion to Michael. He paid for Michael's college education. He helped him get his first car. When Michael wanted to open his own business, Thomas co-signed the loan. For Michael, Thomas was not just a grandfather, he was a father, a mentor, and the one person he trusted completely. In 2019, Michael met Caroline Brooks at a community barbecue. She was 23, working 2 jobs to support herself after her parents moved out of state. She was quiet, thoughtful, and had a smile that made Michael feel like he was the only person in the room. They dated for 8 months before Michael proposed. The wedding was small, held at Thomas's home with about 40 guests. Thomas gave a toast that made everyone cry. He said that Michael had finally found someone who loved him the way he deserved to be loved. He said Caroline was now part of the family. He promised to protect her the way he had always protected Michael. 6 months later, the first cracks appeared. Caroline started spending more time at Thomas's house. At first, Michael thought nothing of it. She said she enjoyed talking to Thomas. She said he gave her advice about starting a family and managing money. Thomas seemed happy to have her around. He would call her to help him with errands. He invited her to dinners when Michael was working late. Michael was grateful. He thought his grandfather was treating Caroline like the daughter he never had. But by the spring of 2021, something had shifted. Caroline became distant. She stopped asking Michael about his day. She spent hours on her phone, smiling at messages she would not let him see. When Michael asked what was wrong, she said she was fine. She said she was just tired. Michael wanted to believe her. He wanted to trust that the 2 people he loved most in the world would never hurt him. On a Saturday afternoon in June, Michael drove to his grandfather's house to drop off some documents. He had texted Caroline earlier to let her know he would be late getting home. She said she was going shopping, but when Michael walked into Thomas's living room, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Caroline was sitting on the couch. Her shoes were by the door, her purse was on the table, and Thomas was standing behind her with his hand on her shoulder in a way that felt too familiar. Michael froze. Caroline looked up, and her face went pale. Thomas smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. He said they were just talking. He said Caroline had stopped by to ask him something about a loan. Michael did not say a word. He turned around and walked out. He sat in his car for 20 minutes, trying to make sense of what he had seen. When Caroline came home that night, Michael confronted her. He asked her why she was at Thomas's house. He asked her why she lied about going shopping. Caroline started crying. She said it was not what it looked like. She said Thomas had been helping her plan a surprise for Michael's birthday. Michael wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that his mind was playing tricks on him, but deep down he knew something was wrong. Over the next 3 months, Michael's suspicions grew. He noticed that Caroline's phone was always face down. He saw that she deleted her text messages. One night, when she was in the shower, Michael checked her phone. What he found confirmed his worst fear. There were messages between Caroline and Thomas, messages that went back nearly 2 years, messages that were not about birthday surprises or family advice. They were intimate, they were explicit. They were the kind of messages a man sends to a woman he is in love with. Michael's hands shook as he scrolled through the conversations. There were photos. There were plans to meet when Michael was at work. There were promises. Thomas had told Caroline that he would take care of her. He said he would leave her money in his will. He said Michael would never have to know. Caroline had told Thomas that she loved him. She said being with him made her feel alive in a way Michael never could. Michael felt like he was drowning. The two people he trusted most had been lying to him for years. His wife, his grandfather, the man who raised him. He put the phone down and walked out of the house. He drove to a bar on the edge of town and sat there until closing time, staring at a glass of whiskey he never drank. When Michael came home at 2 a.m, Caroline was awake. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, crying. She said she knew he had seen the messages. She said she was sorry. Michael asked her one question. How long? Caroline looked down at her hands. She said it started 6 months after the wedding. She said Thomas had kissed her one night when Michael was out of town. She said she tried to stop it, but Thomas told her that if she ever said anything, he would cut Michael off. He would take away everything he had given him. He would destroy him. Caroline said she felt trapped. She said she did not know how to get out. Michael listened to every word. Then he told her to leave. He said he never wanted to see her again. Caroline packed a bag and left that night. She moved in with a friend across town. For 2 weeks, Michael did not speak to anyone. He did not go to work. He did not answer his phone. He sat alone in the house, trying to understand how his life had fallen apart so completely. Then, on a Thursday evening in September, Michael drove to his grandfather's house. Thomas was surprised to see him. He opened the door with a smile and asked Michael to come in. They sat in the living room where Michael had once felt safe. Thomas poured himself a drink and asked Michael how he was doing. Michael looked at him and said, "I know everything." Thomas's face changed. The smile disappeared. He put down his drink and leaned back in his chair. He said he did not know what Michael was talking about. Michael took out his phone and showed him the messages. He showed him the photos. He showed him everything. Thomas stared at the screen for a long time. Then he looked up at Michael and said something that Michael would never forget. He said, "She came to me." He said Caroline had wanted it. He said Michael should be grateful that he had taken care of her when Michael could not. Michael stood up. He felt a rage he had never felt before. He told Thomas that he had destroyed everything. He told him that he was supposed to be family. Thomas stood up too. He said Michael was overreacting. He said it was just physical. He said it did not mean anything. That was when Michael hit him. He did not plan to. He did not think about it. He just swung, and his fist connected with Thomas's jaw. Thomas stumbled backward and fell, hitting his head on the corner of the coffee table. There was blood, a lot of blood. Michael stood there, breathing hard, staring at his grandfather lying on the floor. Thomas was not moving. Michael dropped to his knees and checked for a pulse. It was faint. He pulled out his phone and called 911. He told them what happened. He told them everything. When the paramedics arrived, they rushed Thomas to the hospital. Michael was taken into custody. He sat in the back of the police car, numb, staring at his hands. Detective Morrison interviewed him that night. Michael told her everything, the affair, the messages, the confrontation. He said he did not mean to hurt Thomas. He said he just wanted answers. Detective Morrison listened. She had been a detective for 15 years, and she had seen cases like this before. Families destroyed by secrets, lives ruined by betrayal. But this one felt different. This one felt personal. Over the next few days, the case unfolded in ways no one expected. Thomas survived, but he had a severe brain injury. He could not speak. He could not remember what happened. Caroline was brought in for questioning. She admitted to the affair. She said Thomas had manipulated her. She said he had threatened to ruin Michael if she ever told the truth. But the evidence told a different story. Text messages showed that Carolyn had initiated many of the conversations. She had sent photos. She had planned meetings. She had told Thomas that she loved him. The prosecutor charged Michael with aggravated assault. Caroline was charged with conspiracy and fraud, as investigators discovered that she and Thomas had planned to take out a life insurance policy on Michael just weeks before the confrontation. The trial began in the spring of 2022. It lasted 3 weeks. Michael's lawyer argued that he had acted in the heat of passion, that any man in his position would have reacted the same way. The prosecutor argued that violence was never the answer, that Michael should have walked away. The jury deliberated for 2 days. In the end, Michael was found guilty of aggravated assault, but not attempted murder. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 5. Caroline was sentenced to 4 years for her role in the fraud scheme. Thomas Hayes never recovered. He remained in a care facility, unable to speak or recognize anyone. His construction business was sold. His properties were liquidated to pay for his medical care. The house overlooking the Chattahoochee River was put on the market. It sold within a month. The new owners had no idea what had happened there. 3 years later, Detective Morrison was asked to speak about the case at a conference for law enforcement. She stood in front of a room full of officers and prosecutors and told them about Michael Hayes. She told them about the grandfather who betrayed the boy he raised. She told them about the wife who chose money over love. She told them about the man who lost everything because he trusted the wrong people. She ended her talk with a question. She asked, "What would you have done?" The room was silent. No one had an answer. Because the truth is, there is no good answer. Michael Hayes sits in a prison cell in North Georgia. He is eligible for parole in 2 years. He has not spoken to Caroline since the trial. He has not visited Thomas. When asked if he regrets what he did, Michael said he regrets everything. He regrets marrying Caroline. He regrets trusting Thomas. He regrets not seeing the truth sooner. But he does not regret confronting them. He said he needed them to know that he knew. He needed them to see the pain they caused. The case of Michael Hayes is a reminder that betrayal does not always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people we love most. Sometimes it comes from the people we trust with our lives. And sometimes the damage is so deep that no amount of time can heal it. So here is the question for you. If you were in Michael's position, if you discovered that the 2 people you loved most had betrayed you in the worst possible way, what would you do? Would you walk away? Would you confront them? Would you be able to forgive? Think about it, because the truth is, we never know how we will react until we are in that moment, until everything we believed in is torn apart, until the people we trusted become strangers. Michael Hayes lost his wife, his grandfather, and his freedom, but the real tragedy is that he also lost his faith in people. He lost his ability to trust, and that, more than anything, is the price of betrayal. The Hayes family no longer exists. The name that once meant something in Marietta is now associated with scandal and pain. The house where Michael grew up is owned by someone else. The business Thomas built is gone. And Michael, the boy who was raised by a man he thought loved him, is serving time for a crime born out of heartbreak. This is the story of what happens when trust is broken. This is the story of what happens when love turns into something unrecognizable. This is the story of Michael Hayes, a man who had everything and lost it all in one night. What do you think about Michael's story? Do you think he was justified in his actions, or do you think he should have walked away? How would you feel if you were in his position, discovering that your grandfather and your wife had been lying to you for years? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if this story affected you the way it affected us, please hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who hurt us the most.